So Colorado Springs has a lot of military in it. We're surrounded by, I think, 5 military bases.
Yeah, there's let's see, Fort Carson, Schriever, Peterson, the Academy, and then you got Buckley, and so yeah, I mean, there's a huge military presence here.
So I know that there's going to be a lot of people listening to this podcast that are probably military and want to start businesses themselves. Has the military been any assistance with you with starting your business? Has that had any?
I would say my background, absolutely. I mean, without a doubt, without the the discipline and the stuff that I did in the military, I mean, this would have never happened. I mean, again, trying to start your own business, it's tough, and especially brick and mortar. You're competing against other family entertainment places or whatever your niche is. I mean, there's a lot to it. The administrative side, the taking care of your team side. And then you got whatever your product is, right?
Yeah.
But without a doubt, my background, the 20 years that I spent in, I mean, it develops that ability to have that discipline, to figure problems out. Again, in the military, you're constantly throwing problems. Whether it's deployed, not deployed. I mean, problems happen all the time, and you're very fiscally constrained or manpower constrained, and that right there recipe makes for a great entrepreneur coming out of the military, because again you are used to working with the constraints, whether it's regulations, whether it's money, whether it's people, to get it done. Yeah, and then having that discipline that, hey, like, I'm going to spend the next 12 hours working on one thing that's going to get this done, and then you get it done, you're like, seriously, I just spent 12 hours doing this one thing that I feel like it's nothing, but you have to do it, right? Your discipline and your checklist and your how you operate. And especially for folks that retire, you got that extra pension to kind of fall back on while you're developing your business. Just getting out of the military is tough for people because, again, you're jumping into a world where on the civilian side of the house, people have been doing what you want to go do for years. So now you're competing with somebody that, has been with that company or been doing it for, 10 years or even 20 years. And, I was kind of in that mindset, oh, well, I'm military, man. People are going to be wanting to hire me all over the place. Yeah, that's not the case. Like you gotta sell yourself just like anything else, and realize that there's a bunch of other people you're competing against. So you got to be really prepared for it. But yeah, without a doubt, the military really, I think, set me up for success versus a traditional, like, I go get my MBA, have book smarts on, hey, this is what the MBA provides you and how to do business. I mean, I think especially within the special ops world, you got to be flexible. There's chaos all the time. And a lot of times you're asked for overwhelming tasks that you have to, no fail mission, you have to do it. And it's kind of like being an entrepreneur. You either fail or you don't. You gotta keep pressing forward and adapt, and your way may not be the best way, and all that kind of
stuff. I constantly failed at the beginning. I'm constantly failing all the time, just 2 episodes ago, I dropped my audio, and my audio was bad on the episode. But the guest audio is good. And I was just so bummed about it, because it's like, man, there's always one thing. But as I keep doing it more and more, it's like, those little things are going to evaporate.
As long as you learn from them, they're not failures, man. Exactly. They're just things that help you learn, even successes. And that's the tough thing with success. It's hard to remember those because you're like, everything's great. When something sets you back, a failure, it's ingrained in you, and you're like, okay, I'm not doing that again, right?
For sure, yeah.
So, it's there's been a lot of decisions that, we're going along, and I'm like, yeah, this is the way we're going. And then, like, literally the next day, I'm like, no, we're going this way.
Yeah.
Okay, nope, now we're going this way. So it's, you gotta have, you can't have the ego. And I think that's the big thing about military too, my time in and my personal experiences. You put your ego aside for a lot of things, and you're not gonna be right all the time. As much as we all want to be right 100% of the time, it's not gonna happen.
For sure.
So you can't have the ego to not adjust course, right? So you're constantly moving. And I think that's what, for military folks, I think, and it's anybody too, but just from my experience with military folks, and that was my life for over 20 years, is, you get that ingrained in you that you got to adapt and overcome and make things happen.
This is a show where we have real conversations with the business owners and entrepreneurs here in Colorado Springs, doing things in the community of Colorado Springs.